Have you ever tried to make a positive change in your life, but for some reason you just can't seem to do it? Maybe it's a goal that you'd like to accomplish, but anytime you try to achieve it, you just end up self-sabotaging. Or perhaps it's an emotional issue that just won't seem to go away, or some kind of psychological block that just keeps on holding you back. Well, one of the reasons why we can often struggle in a situation like this is because we haven't enlisted the help of our subconscious mind. And one of the best ways to do this is by using self-hypnosis. So in this video, I want to talk about what self-hypnosis is and why it can be so powerful when it comes to creating personal change. Hi, I'm Stephen Burns from Mind School, and in this video I want to start off a series on self-hypnosis techniques. And in particular today I want to answer a commonly asked question, and that is, what is hypnosis and how does it work? So before we kick off, if you could of course like, subscribe and ring the bell, that would be fantastic, just to keep you up to date with future Mind School uploads. Also, if you have any questions about self-hypnosis, please do ask them in the comments box below. So let's get started. So what actually is self-hypnosis? Well, in order to answer that question, I want to just back up a little bit and talk about what actually is hypnosis, because it's the same state of mind you're looking to create, but you are of course looking to create it inside yourself for the purposes of positive change. So there's lots of different ways to look at hypnosis, but for me, hypnosis is the study of altered states of consciousness. It's when we take our attention from the many, from being split and fragmented over multiple different sources, and then we become locked or focused on one single element of experience, and we become deeply absorbed in it. A lot of people think that hypnosis is basically the same as relaxation, or relaxation is the same as hypnosis, and it's not really. Relaxation tends to be a nice segue into hypnosis, and it's also a byproduct. But it's not really the same thing. Hypnosis is more about becoming absorbed. It's about becoming transfixed. It's about becoming locked into a single element of experience and then losing yourself in there. And you know, modern society conditions us to do the opposite. You know, we can have iPads and iPads, easy for me to say. We can have iPads or iPhones or, multiple WhatsApp threads pinging at us in multiple different directions. We can have Facebook Messenger, text messages, you name it. And this conditions our mind to split or diffuse our attention across many different sources. Well, hypnosis is the opposite of that. It's when you just lose yourself in one single element of experience and then become deeply absorbed in it. And actually, this is a natural state of mind. I know with hypnosis there is a lot of drama and theatre around it, especially with stage hypnosis. But really, when you get down to it, hypnosis is a natural state of mind. It's actually one of our default states. It's how we used to live on an almost day-to-day basis when we were kids. Because we didn't yet have, our cognitive critical faculties. They weren't developed by that stage. So we just went from one state of hypnotic trance to the next. We were deeply absorbed in everything that we experienced. But even as adults, even though we have developed this, critical, more analytical brain, we do still go into trances at various different times of the day. For example, if you like reading, when you're really, really absorbed in a book, you're flicking through 50 Shades of Grey and you're going, man, this is amazing. And then all of a sudden, 2 hours have gone past and it's like, what happened there? Or a friend walks up to you and it's like you don't even see them because you're so absorbed in the book. That's an example of a state of trance. It's an example of hypnosis. It's a mild state, but it's still this state of hypnosis. Another example is if you go to the movies. I love to go to the cinema and see a fantastic movie. If you think about it, this is a very, very hypnotic experience. You sit down, you focus on one thing, and you become absorbed, assuming it's a good film, of course. And then that film maybe takes you on a journey. It makes you feel certain feelings. It makes you laugh. It makes you cry. It moves you emotionally. And maybe you even leave the film feeling like you've changed. It's made you think about yourself or think about life in a very, very different way. If you think about it, this is a really masterful piece of hypnotic change work. You know, you become transfixed and it's allowed you to change the way that you feel and potentially even change the way that you think. So this is a kind of natural example, or these are natural examples of hypnosis, of times when you go into that state of hypnotic trance. One of my favourite ones is what I call the supermarket trance. You know, when you're in the supermarket and you're staring into space over a can of beans, and then all of a sudden a friend walks up to you and goes, "Hey, how you doing?" And you go, "I didn't see you there." Maybe you don't look like that, but I'm sure you get the picture. But that's an example of where you've become locked into a train of thought. You've gone into a natural place of hypnosis. So I wanted just to mention those because often people think hypnosis is like some kind of weird state where your mind is completely zapped or switched off. That's just not what it's like. In truth, it can feel a bit weird, but that doesn't mean it's not natural. It doesn't mean it's not one of our default states. So that's, in my opinion, what hypnosis is. So when you're, of course, doing self-hypnosis, you're looking to create that state inside yourself. So you're not going to a hypnotherapist, you're not going to a stage show. You're looking to create that lovely place of absorption within yourself, and then you're using it, you're leveraging those states to then create some kind of positive personal change in your life. And in my opinion, there are at least 3 very good reasons for doing this. 3 reasons why self-hypnosis can be so powerful and why it works in the first place. And the first reason is that anytime we go into one of these states of absorption, when we go into a state of hypnosis, then it starts to bypass what we call the critical faculty of the mind. Whenever we're looking to create some kind of change, what often has to happen first, especially if we are considering that change from a more conscious place, more in the waking state, then we start to analyse the change, we critique it, and then ultimately we often defeat it. So it doesn't even get a chance of becoming part of our day-to-day reality. However, when we go into hypnosis, when we start to become absorbed in that one single element of experience, then it lessens that critical faculty. We analyse less, and it seems to just bypass those cognitive aspects of our mind. In fact, actually what happens is the brain becomes much more plastic. If you do any research into the subject of neuroplasticity, one of the key things that increases neuroplasticity is when we become absorbed in one single thing, when we commit to our experience and give something our full attention. That's why, athletes and top performers, they are usually lauded for their ability to concentrate, especially when they're practicing, because it's like they go into this heightened state, this state of trance, it's hypnosis, and that allows their brain to become more plastic, more malleable, so they can learn and develop so much quicker. So this is one of the key reasons why self-hypnosis can work so well and why it can be so powerful, because it lessens the critical faculty, makes the brain much more plastic, much more malleable, so we're much more inclined to accept new suggestions, new ways of thinking, new ways of being. So then the second reason is that it allows you to tap into more of your own creativity. As human beings, we are incredibly creative. But sometimes, we can just get a little bit too thinky, a bit too analytical, a bit too conscious. Whereas when we go into a state of hypnotic trance, then we start to become so much more imaginative. We can start to see things that maybe we couldn't see previously. We can start to experience feelings that we hadn't considered we could feel before. For me, when I go into trance, all of a sudden I can visualise much better. I struggle to visualise outside of trance. But when I'm in hypnosis, man, all of a sudden my pictures get really clear and I can really imagine different alternatives inside my mind. And that's the thing, often when we get stuck in some kind of limitation or some kind of problem, the reason why we get stuck is because we can't imagine the solution, because we get so entrenched in the problem that we can't imagine what life could be like if it was different. So if we're depressed or if we're anxious, it can be very, very difficult to imagine being happy or imagine being calm because we're so stuck in the problem. Our imagination, our creativity is shut down. So when we go into trance, this starts to open up again. Things start to liven up on the inside, and we can start to consider lots of different alternatives. So that's the second reason. The third is more of a consequence of the first two, and that is when we go into this place of hypnotic trance, we start to experience a really cool thing called trance logic. So trance logic is where we start to consider something to be real that previously we thought couldn't be real. So that's a bit of a mouthful, so just let me explain. So you know when you dream, we all have crazy dreams from time to time, but when you're having this really, really vivid dream, maybe your granny is chasing you with a spoon and then you're running away from her and you run down a hole and all of a sudden you're in Alice in Wonderland and then you turn around and your granny's turned into Donald Trump and you don't have those dreams? Is that just me? Anyways, I'm sure you have some crazy dreams of yourself. But when you have a dream and then you wake up, and there's that moment when you wake up where the dream isn't true, but it still kind of feels as if it's true. It's almost like you're experiencing it being true and not true at the same time, and your body is really reacting as if it's true. That's an example of quite extreme trance logic, where we're considering something to be real that previously we wouldn't normally have considered to be real, especially if we're in the waking conscious state. So when we go into hypnosis, that is the kind of thing that starts to activate. It is a consequence of bypassing the critical faculty and also becoming more creative, more imaginative, but it really is one of the fundamental parts of making any change when you're doing self-hypnosis. Because if you think about it, all of a sudden, if you can start to consider things to be real alternatives that previously you would never have dreamed to be real alternatives, then that's a really powerful place to be. If you're lacking confidence, then you can start to consider what life would be like if you are confident. Or if you're anxious, you can start to consider what it would be like if you become calm, if you become relaxed. And you can actually step into them and actually feel as if they are real, valid alternatives. So that is what self-hypnosis is, why it works, and also why it can be so powerful. Hopefully that's cleared up some myths and misconceptions that you may have had about the subject, because there are a few floating about there. So that is what self-hypnosis is and why it can be so powerful. And like I said at the start of the video, this is the first of a series that I'm going to be making on self-hypnosis techniques. So if you want to keep up to date with those videos as they drop, then please do subscribe to the Mind School channel. Also, if you have any comments, any questions about this subject, then let me know in the comments box. I'd love to hear what you think. So that's all for me for today. Have a great week and I'll see you later on.